This is Van Wander. Today we're going to talk about how I keep my veggies fresh and crisp in my minivan. It's gone through several iterations. I started by putting them in my refrigerator, which is set way too cold for vegetables and they turn to mush. Then I moved on to using a Amazon fresh bag, basically a paper bag, and I have a technique for doing that. And now I've moved on to an iteration where I'm building a little crisper box out of XPS foam. Borrowing some ideas I saw on YouTube for people who build XPS foam-based furniture in their minivans or vans. And I'm using that same kind of technique because I realize insulation is insulation, so it should help keep things cool. And I'm hoping this is going to work out for me. So I have a really basic 23-quart fridge in my minivan. It's made by Bouge RV. I think it was $179 when I got it. It's a single zone only, so you can't have two different temperatures in it. So I set it to 34 degrees, which causes it to fluctuate between 34 and 38. And it's perfect for keeping meat, dairy, my sodas, that kind of things. But I can't put vegetables in there or they become a slimy mess. So I just thought, what should I do then with my vegetables? Because if I take them out, they become hot. So I came up with this poor man's vegetable cooler idea. In my area, Amazon will deliver cold groceries in these silver-lined paper bags. What I've been doing is a couple of times a day, take a few sodas from my cold refrigerator and I put them into the bag with my veggies. This keeps them cold enough, but not too cold. Perfect for veggies. And then I close up the bag with some clothespins and I put it somewhere out of the sun. I'm not sure how I ended up using an elaborate bag as a solution. The simplest solution and probably the best solution is to get an insulated lunch bag from Amazon and use that to put your vegetables in. They're insulated. You can do the same trick with the soda cans, and that's probably what I'll recommend people do, although you may want to go with what I do next. Anyways, I'll put links to anything that I thought was interesting as far as insulated bags are concerned in the description area. If you purchase anything that's listed in my description area, I do get a small amount of money, so I'm letting you know that. So this brings me to my vegetable crisper project. I happen to be watching a lot of videos about people making cabinets out of XPS foam insulation. At the same time, I ran into that bag again, which kept getting in my way, and I knew I needed to do something about it. So those two ideas basically combined, and I decided to make an XPS foam vegetable crisper. Of course, that door falls off as soon as the van starts moving. I bought this foam hot knife on Amazon. It works really well. I'll put a link in the description for it. Basically, to use it, it heats up in about, say, 10 to 15 seconds, and then it slices like a hot knife through butter. Make sure you turn it off. Don't let it touch anything or it will burn you. The best part about it is it makes a very clean, nice edge. I am by no means an expert because this is the first XPS foam box I've ever put together. There's a lot of internet videos on making XPS foam furniture and cabinets for your van. But basically what you're doing is making a set of interlocking pieces using this hot knife to cut shapes out so that the pieces will then interlock together. Here I am outlining a section to be cut out, and then I cut out a gap in this particular piece, and then if I measured it right, which I probably didn't, this piece fits right in. And so the idea is, if you do this perfectly, it would almost stay in without any adhesive. I am, of course, going to use adhesive. The adhesive that I'm using is Gorilla Glue, heavy duty, construction adhesive. One thing I should point out is that this adhesive is not food contact safe, which means you really shouldn't let your vegetables be touching the glue directly. I had some major difficulties putting it together inside of my shelving unit. As you can see,
I left a huge hole where my fingers could even fit through. I redid it a little bit, and then I ended up putting in reinforcements that cover up most of the glue.
So one of my thoughts was to paint the inside of my crisper, and I looked into what kind of paints could basically be somewhat food safe, and the only thing I could find was this Rust-Oleum V2100 series paint. This is Fleet White enamel. According to their website, it is food adjacent or something like that, safe. I thought that was better than not safe at all, so I went ahead and painted the inside. Little did I know that XPS foam doesn't really like this spray paint very much, and it kind of slightly dissolved it, I would say. So I'm gonna probably do another video and find out the best way to paint XPS foam. Maybe I should have done a primer first. I'm not really sure. That's probably what I'll do, is test out the different ways of painting this directly. I think if you are going to use this without a primer, you should do a very light coat first, let it set, harden, and then more coats on top, and that might actually eventually build up enough where the foam won't like dissolve underneath. I'll show you pictures of how it ended up. It's a little rough looking. I think it's still better than exposing the foam directly. If I put my veggies in there, they're always going to be in bags probably anyways. So I will link this paint in the description, and later on, after I do a video comparing the different ways of painting XPS foam, I'll add that as a link inside the description as well. So that's it.
So here's how painting the XPS foam turned out. It looks kind of speckled. It's kind of like a bunch of little tiny pinholes. They're not deep. It's still hard to the touch. It's just probably not great for cleanliness. And so I'm going to try to figure out a better way to paint it. I did think about adding a wood panel similar to this to the inside. But I guess here you can actually see how I ended up making my door attach better. I used cutouts of tin on the four corners and then magnets on the actual enclosure. Time will tell if this is going to hold well enough. It does seem to hold, at least driving around the city. We'll see how it works on a mountain road. 2 cans of cold soda from my 36-degree refrigerator and 1 giant head of cabbage go into my crisper, and we'll put a thermometer in there to monitor how it looks, and we'll come back maybe 4 hours later and take a look at it. It is a hot day here in California. Alright, so just under 90 degrees here in the van. It's 5 o'clock, so it's been about 4 hours. Let's just take a look and see what we got in my veggie crisper. It's showing hotter than crap in there, 70 degrees. Great. It is still cool, so I don't know. 70 degrees is better than 90 degrees, I guess. My veggies are cool. The soda cans are still quite cold. Probably going to continue on like that. I don't know. I'm going to call it a success, I think. It's still better than slimy vegetables in a refrigerator and better than leaving the vegetables in just a bag. So I think the method's working good enough. Well, this project was long. I made a lot of mistakes. Learned a few things. Probably would do it differently, quite a bit differently next time. But mostly around the painting and the cutting, because I started off cutting with a knife instead of a hot knife. I would say that even though I saw 70 degrees inside the crisper in a 90-degree van, I still think that's 20 degrees less than the inside of the van temperature. I did leave the van closed
during that time, and so because of that, it's actually a lot higher temperature than I would normally have during the day, because normally I don't camp and sit inside of a van that's 90 degrees. I usually stay places where I can get it down into the 80s, at least the low 80s anyways, which might still get me down to the 60s or the upper 60s for the vegetables, which is probably fine for most of the things that I buy, and certainly a lot better than letting it sit at 80 to 90 degrees. So I'm going to call it a success, maybe a limited success. I hope to do better in the future. Anyways, just don't stop wandering, people. That's the beauty of this world. Bye.